Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. Sounds epic, right? You just wait. So this is a spoiler-free review. Don't worry about that. In that, it's gonna be a little harder to review. Spoiler video will probably be a lot more fun, a lot more interesting. Be here for that. So anyhow, let's talk about it. So Star Wars Episode 9 is a 4-hour movie they crushed into 2.5 hours because it feels like this movie probably should have been a lot longer. But it's also part 3 of the Disney Star Wars trilogy, supposedly the last of the core movies, like the core saga that we're gonna get. End of the Skywalker saga, whatever you want to say. Gonna get right to what I liked in this movie. I like the nostalgic stuff, sure. I mean, it's cheap as hell. They're going for the member berry soup right there. Whenever they can, you feel like they're just gonna be like, oh, remember this? I remember. Remember that? I remember. They're not membering enough, Williams. Pick it up. Then a very familiar John Williams score will start swelling at the opportune moment. It makes you like, oh, nostalgia. Which, whatever you want to say about Star Wars movies, the ones you like, the ones you don't, if they're the core 1 through 9, if they're episodes 1 through 9. Even if you don't like the episodes, John Williams, in my opinion, is never the weak part. So I enjoyed the power of nostalgia coming back to me because it's a very powerful thing. I enjoyed the member berries until they started getting a little heavy-handed. I was like, okay, come on, I know now, I see it. It's like, I like the puppet show, but I'm seeing the person behind the curtain and it's compromising the effect. Other than that, there's not a lot I liked in this movie, to be honest with you. I know. Oh, you know what? There's this new commander. There's this new commander in the First Order. I liked him. But again, damage control. They made Hux a little bitch, and so they're like, we need someone the audience will fear. But so we got to bring this other guy on board. I feel like more than a few things in Rise of Skywalker is damage control for The Last Jedi, so it's really hard to tell where the damage control ends and the actual vision of the movie they wanted to make begins. I'm not just talking about the fact they're like, Snoke's dead, shit, all right, let's bring in Palpatine. Which I know they or J.J. Abrams have said, no, that was the plan from the beginning to bring Palpatine in. Bullshit. I thought it was bullshit before I saw the movie. Now that I've seen the movie, no way you're gonna convince me otherwise. But it's not just that. There are a couple of bits of dialogue in here. I was like, we had different information a couple years ago. I mean, it's part 3 of this new trilogy, so at a point you gotta look back and be like, okay, where did it go wrong? You know, what wrong turns were made? But on the other hand, you gotta judge the movie on its own merits as its own episode. But we're in the concluding chapter of a trilogy that had a stormtrooper that turned good. That's actually an arc I'd never seen in any of the movies. I've seen people who lived on desert planets who become Jedi. I've seen that a couple times. I've seen good pilots, I've seen scoundrels, never seen a stormtrooper turn good. And what did they do with that? Not much. Thought they would, but they didn't. Just kept him the friend, the sidekick, because, you know, everyone needs a sidekick. Even when John Boyega's cast as him, John Boyega's a good actor. What are you doing wasting him? I'll say that. All the actors do fine for what they're given. Adam Driver's good in the movie. He does the best with what he has, but I don't feel like he was really given much to do in here. There are a couple moments where he could have been given more to do, but in the end, no, because I feel like the intrigue that they feel is driving this whole thing is the intrigue of, will they, won't they, hashtag Raylo. I don't care if they fuck or not. Let's save the galaxy. But at a point I was like, this movie feels really choppy because you know the Star Wars wipes, those fades that happen because essentially it's a location change. At a point it was just fade, fade, wipe, wipe, transition. This movie has to have the most amount of Star Wars wipes that sounds totally like a toilet paper, but it had so many transitions in succession, and it's just because it's just speed running you through this plot. Plot's pretty generous. I don't know, scavenger hunt? I mean, even the movie starts out in the opening crawl, you're like, oh, that's some information, okay, where some stuff has happened. Then the movie starts out with a situation wrapping up and you're like, actually, here's what's gonna happen. If it doesn't already exist, there will be a prequel book that comes out that fills in those gaps because business model. But I was like, okay, maybe the movie just starts out a little choppy, but the choppiness stays with the movie for quite some time. It doesn't help that there's not a lot of intrigue at all. I mean, anytime there could be intrigue, it's like someone pops into frame to explain something. It's like, what would they need with that? Oh, just popping into frame to tell you that's what it is. Okay, let's go do the thing then. But what should we do? You should go to that planet. Go there. All right, now we know. It doesn't feel like there's an organic unraveling of information as much as there is just exposition vomit. Did you see that trailer? That one? I mean, I'm not going to play it in case you didn't see the trailer, but in this trailer, you know, that trailer. But in the trailer, there's this voice that gives Kylo Ren information, and you're like, you're just gonna answer that just like that? People and characters in the movie kind of just always do that. Why have an intriguing unraveling of information when you can just, you know, save time? And then after that, make with the video game plot. I'm not talking like good video game plot because It's like a scavenger hunt video game plot. All right, we have to go to this planet. Who are we looking for? We're looking for this person. This person's like, hey, I'm that person. But I don't actually have the thing you're looking for. That person might. All right, let's go over there. All right, I need a thing. Yeah, you need a thing, but you need me to get the thing to get you the thing. It's just an unraveling of 90s video game plot. I know, there have been some great video game plots in the 90s, but it's the formula. It's the format. It's the best I can describe it. Also, are they friends? Are Poe, Finn, and Rey, are they actually friends? One thing I noticed in this movie, you look at Return of the Jedi, you even look at Anakin and Obi-Wan by the time Revenge of the Sith happens, at least in the first part. They have their bickering. Obi-Wan rolls his eyes a few times, shakes his head maybe, but you can tell they do have a friendship. There's a kinship there. Everyone in Return of the Jedi is like, all kumbaya all the time. One time, Han Solo kind of exploded on Leia. Could you tell, Luke? Is that who you could tell? He's like, all right, come here. I'm sorry. Rise of Skywalker, they bicker and argue over each other all the time. That kind of arguing that just gets your anxiety up. You're like, God, you all can't wait for this to end too, huh? Sweet. Another thing this movie didn't do so great is illustrate the threat level. You know, threat, fear of danger. That's kind of what makes an adventure thrilling. But there's a scene where they're running through this place just massacring stormtroopers. Bullseyes every time, no need to take cover ever, which tells the audience there's no need to worry, which means no threat, which means no thrill, which means boring. Yeah, I mean, I love a good God mode code myself, but once in a while, don't make it the movie. Rey is so OP in this movie. She is so overpowered. She's more powerful here than you've ever seen her, which it's been like a year, I guess. I hear online that it's been a year, but she does some stuff in here where you're like, where did you learn that? How? I'm not talking like swinging a lightsaber and she's good at fighting or something. I'm talking fucking how. And most disappointing for me is just the third act at a point just felt ridiculous. Only word I can use to describe it is ridiculous. It's like Abrams was like, we got to do really big stuff. Let's do big stuff. It's like this movie, or at least the third act, was made by someone who likes Star Wars-ish things, but doesn't really know the Star Wars lore. There are rules in Star Wars. Look, I can only say so much with spoiler free, so I'm just going to give you the gist. And I genuinely think if you love The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi still, if it just hit you and you just love the movies, I think you'll probably enjoy Rise of Skywalker. It's the concluding chapter of that trilogy that you love. And that's why I say this with a heavy heart, but I really do mean it. I just legitimately, driving home from the screening, this was the thing in my head. And this is just real. The Rise of Skywalker is my least favorite of the 9 core saga films. I saw some people say this movie's bold, like it had some bold decisions. I didn't see anything bold in here. There's nothing bold about this movie. There's a difference between bold and desperate. But maybe when this movie comes on Disney Plus, I'll fast forward to the good scenes. I can't think of any. I don't know any scene in this movie I'll actually fast forward it to. Even the lightsaber fights bored me. I guess that's the hardest part, is I felt nothing in the movie. I was watching it and I'm like, it feels like a sci-fi movie. It just feels like another sci-fi movie, which is never what Star Wars ever felt like. Star Wars always had that sense of lore building or character building, moving towards something. You know what they're moving towards in this movie, and by the end it just feels like, oh, you were moving towards damage control. That was sloppily executed. Congrats. There are a couple things. There are 3 things in particular I could think of. I'm like, beating a dead horse now. I'm just saying I'm not going to remember Rise of Skywalker in T-1 day. Yep, already forgot.